In the headlines, we begin with a geopolitical clash at the United Nations as the Middle East crisis deepens. Russia and China accuse the United States and Israel of stoking hysteria to justify military action against Iran. The Security Council remains deadlocked as global powers trade blame. While diplomats debate in New York, Iran's new supreme leader is issuing a sharp warning. Mojtaba Khamenei told Gulf states to shut down U.S. military bases or face strikes. The ultimatum has put regional allies on higher alert. Beyond the Gulf, Ukraine is turning to Romania to avoid an energy crisis. President Volodymyr Zelensky issued an urgent appeal after diesel supplies were disrupted by regional disputes. Kiev is now pushing for stronger energy ties with Bucharest. From energy crisis to a deadly attack in the U.S., authorities in Michigan are investigating after a gunman drove a truck into a synagogue in West Bloomfield before opening fire. The suspect was killed by security guards as officials condemn the attack as a hate crime. Meanwhile, a rare diplomatic thaw is emerging in Asia. Passenger rail service between Beijing and Pyongyang has resumed after nearly 6 years. The reopening signals renewed economic and diplomatic ties. And finally, global politics is reaching the world of sports. President Donald Trump said Iran's national football team is welcome at the 2026 FIFA World Cup. However, he raised questions about participation amid continuing security concerns. I'm Franco Baranda. Newsline World starts now. The United Nations Security Council descended into a fierce geopolitical standoff on Thursday as Russia and China accused the United States and Israel of deliberately stoking hysteria to justify aggression against Iran. Carlo de la Peña has the details.
The UN Security Council was at it again, and this time the gloves were off. As Operation Roaring Lion enters its third week, world powers clashed over who bears responsibility for the escalating crisis, with Russia leading the charge against Washington. Russian Permanent Representative Vasilina Benzia claimed that the February 28 strikes were never meant to be a last resort, but rather a premeditated military adventure. Amid the heated debate, Washington declared a full reimposition of global arms embargoes and asset freezes, signaling a permanent shift away from diplomacy as the conflict enters its third week. Nebenzia argued that the U.S. and its allies used unfounded insinuations about Iran's nuclear program to plunge the region into chaos, ignoring reports that Tehran's activities were peaceful.
Впрочем, последующие события, особенно те, которые мы вынуждены наблюдать последние 1,5 недели, наглядно продемонстрировали, что дипломатическое урегулирование изначально не входило в планы США и их союзников. Они сознательно повышали ставки и нагнетали истерию вокруг якобы имеющихся у Ирана планов обрести ядерное оружие, которые ни разу не подкреплялись отчетностью МАГАТЭ, в отличие от того, что мы сегодня слышали от представителей США. В этом контексте хотим напомнить, что Российская Федерация категорически осуждает акт вооруженной агрессии в отношении Ирана со стороны США и Израиля, нарушение Устава ООН и основополагающих норм международного права.
China's Fu Kong echoed these concerns, calling the current situation a regression into the law of the jungle. Beijing called on the U.S. and Israel to immediately halt strikes on nuclear facilities under the supervision of the UN's nuclear watchdog and demanded a return to the 2015 nuclear deal known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. However, U.S. Ambassador Mike Waltz rejected these criticisms as performative hand-wringing. He announced that the U.S. has triggered the snapback mechanism, effectively reimposing the robust UN sanctions that were in place prior to 2015.
Is that all member states of the United Nations should be implementing an arms embargo against Iran, banning the transfer and trade of missile technology, and freezing relevant financial assets. The reality is Russia and China do not want this committee because it will continue to protect their partner, Iran. In light of that, the United States will continue to work to ensure Iran can no longer hold the world hostage with its missile, drone, and certainly not a nuclear program.
The human cost of the regional spillover was brought to the forefront by Bahraini and British representatives. They condemned the wave after wave of unprovoked Iranian drone and missile strikes that have targeted Gulf states and Jordan over the past week, strikes that Tehran claims are revenge for the death of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei.
So I want to start by expressing solidarity with our partners in the Gulf and the wider region who took no part in the military action launched on 28 February, but who have been the target of waves of repeated and unprovoked Iranian missile and drone attacks over the last week. We strongly condemn these attacks. They are endangering civilians, destabilizing the region, and threatening the global economy. They must stop.
As the U.S. moves to freeze the financial assets of the new Mojtaba Khamenei-led regime, the diplomatic track appears effectively severed. With 450 kilograms of highly enriched uranium now unaccounted for at sites hit by military strikes, the Western powers maintain that actions must now speak louder than words. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Carla de la Peña, SMNI News.
As tensions flare in the Middle East and trade friction with the United States persist, China is calling for calm, urging all sides to put down the pressure tactics and come to the table. Andrea Santos reports.
Beijing is speaking up on two fronts at once. China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jiakun addressed both the ongoing trade dispute with the United States and the escalating military situation in the Middle East, delivering a consistent message: talk it out and stop the escalation. On trade, Guo pushed back against U.S. tariff measures, rejecting what he called political manipulation dressed up as economic policy.
中方在处理中美经贸问题上的立场是一贯明确的，反对各种形式的单边关税措施、关税战、贸易战不符合任何一方的利益。双方应该在平等、尊重、互惠的基础上协商解决有关问题。所谓产能过剩是一个伪命题，中方反对以此为借口进行政治操弄。
On the Middle East, Guo turned his focus to the Strait of Hormuz, warning that instability in the region threatens not just the countries involved, but the entire global economy.
霍尔木兹海峡及其附近水域是重要的国际货物和能源贸易通道，维护这一地区的安全稳定符合国际社会共同利益。中方敦促各方立即停止军事行动，避免紧张事态进一步升级，防止地区局势动荡，对全球经济发展造成更大影响。
When pressed further, Beijing's position remained unchanged: immediate ceasefire and no further escalation.
我不了解你提到的有关情况，中方的立场是一贯明确的，我们敦促各方立即停止军事行动，避免紧张事态进一步升级。
With global trade routes disrupted and military tensions still running high, China is making its stance clear: dialogue over confrontation, stability over conflict. This is Andrea Santos, your citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has announced a sweeping economic engineering package to shield Brazilian consumers from skyrocketing global oil prices. Jade Codnita has the details.
Brazil's President Lula da Silva did not mince words as he approached the lectern in Brasilia, addressing a nation increasingly anxious over the global energy shock. Since the joint U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran began on February 28, the irresponsibility of war, as Lula described it, has sent Brent crude on a volatile roller coaster, peaking at nearly $120 before stabilizing around $100 this week. He warned that without government intervention, the cost of war will soon reach the plate of beans of the poorest citizens. The Brazilian leader noted that even the United States has seen a 20% spike in gasoline prices, a trend he is determined to halt at the Brazilian border.
É para fazer uma reparação naquilo que está acontecendo no Brasil e naquilo que está acontecendo no mundo, muito causado pela irresponsabilidade das guerras que estamos vivendo no mundo. Vocês têm acompanhado pela imprensa e vocês estão vendo que o preço do petróleo está fugindo ao controle em quase todos os países do mundo. O Brent saiu de 77 para 114, caiu para 99 e hoje, nesse momento, está outra vez a $100 o barril.
To combat the spiraling costs, Lula signed a battery of decrees alongside Finance Minister Fernando Haddad and Energy Minister Alexandre Silveira. The measures aim to decouple domestic fuel prices from the international market volatility caused by the de facto closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Lula also made a direct appeal to state governors to reduce the ICMS, a state-level value-added tax on fuels, to ensure that the rising costs of transportation do not trigger a massive surge in food inflation.
Estamos dizendo alto e bom som que estamos fazendo um sacrifício enorme aqui, uma engenharia econômica para evitar que da irresponsabilidade das guerras chegue ao povo brasileiro.
With 1/5 of the world's daily oil supply currently trapped behind the naval blockade in the Persian Gulf, Brazil is leaning on its domestic production and strategic reserves to maintain stability. For the Lula administration, the priority is clear: preventing a regional war in the Middle East from turning into a hunger crisis in South America. This has been Jane Cogniter, Global Citizen Correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has issued a blunt ultimatum to Iran's new leadership and the Lebanese government, vowing to crush the regime in Tehran and warning Beirut that if it does not disarm Hezbollah, Israel will. Pete Agustin reports.
Standing between dual Israeli flags in Jerusalem on Thursday night, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu delivered a defiant progress report on Operation Roaring Lion. The Prime Minister asserted that the joint U.S.-Israeli campaign has already shifted the balance of power in the Middle East, claiming that the old tyrant Ali Khamenei has been eliminated and the new tyrant Mojtaba is now living in hiding. Describing Mojtaba Khamenei as a puppet who cannot show his face, Netanyahu declared that no leader of a terrorist organization has life insurance under Israel's new strategic doctrine. Netanyahu revealed that he and U.S. President Donald Trump are in nearly daily contact, coordinating what he calls a campaign to what he called as liberate the Iranian people and permanently dismantle Tehran's nuclear and missile infrastructure.
תוך זמן קצר חיסלנו את הצורר חמינאי וגם בכירים רבים במשטר הטרור. חיסלנו את הרודן הישן והרודן החדש, מוג'טבה, הבובה של משמרות המהפכה, הוא אינו יכול להראות את פניו בציבור. אני לא הייתי מוציא פוליסות ביטוח חיים על אף אחד מהמנהיגים של ארגוני הטרור ופטרון הטרור שלהם.
The Prime Minister addressed the Iranian public directly, claiming that the moment of truth is approaching for them to overthrow their government. While acknowledging that regime change must ultimately come from within, he insisted that Israel is creating the optimal conditions for a revolution by delivering crushing blows to the Revolutionary Guard and the besieged paramilitary forces. Turning to the north, Netanyahu's rhetoric for the Lebanese government was equally severe. He accused Beirut of playing with fire by failing to disarm Hezbollah despite formal commitments to do so. He warned that if the Lebanese military does not move to neutralize the group, Israel will do the job on the ground.
אם אתם ממשיכים לתת לחיזבאללה לפעול, בניגוד להתחייבות שלכם לפרק אותו מנשקו, התחייבתם. אז תיקחו אתם את גורלכם בידכם. הגיע הזמן שתעשו זאת. עכשיו, אם הם לא יעשו זאת, ברור לך שאנחנו נעשה זאת. איך נעשה זאת? איך נעשה זאת? על הקרקע, עם הקרקע, ודברים אחרים. אני לא עומד לפרט כאן, אבל אני מבטיח לך שאנחנו, כפי שאמרתי, נגבה מחיר יקר מאוד מחיזבאללה, ועדיף לממשלת לבנון שהיא תקדים אותנו. ושתשתתף במהלך הזה. אם היא לא תעשה את זה, לא תיוותר לנו ברירה אלא לעשות זאת בדרכים שלנו.
The briefing also touched on the legal manhunt Netanyahu claims to face domestically, which he compared to the political persecution of his personal friend, President Trump. Despite the sirens of incoming Iranian missiles blaring as he spoke, Netanyahu concluded with a message of total resolve, promising that the lion's roar of the Israeli people will lead to a new Middle East where the Iranian threat of death is permanently removed. This has been Faith Agustin, your citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Up next, a deadly attack in the U.S. authorities in Michigan are investigating after a gunman drove a truck into a synagogue in West Bloomfield before opening fire. The suspect was killed by security guards as officials condemned the attack as a hate crime. More news when Newsline World returns.
Madalas ka bang napapasobra sa pag-scroll sa phone mo kahit puro masasamang balita ang nakikita mo? Isipin mo ito. Nakahiga ka na sa kama, nagche-check lang ng phone bago matulog. Tapos, hindi mo na malayan, ilang oras ka na palang nagbabasa at nanonood ng mga balita tungkol sa digmaan, sakuna, politika, at lahat ng masasamang nangyayari sa mundo. Nakakaramdam ka na ng kaba at pagod, pero tuloy mo pa rin ang scroll mo. Ang tawag dyan ay doom scrolling. Ito ang habit ng paulit-ulit na pagtingin sa mga negatibo o nakaka-depress na content tulad ng digmaan, krimen o problema sa mundo. Nakaka-stress pero hindi mo pa rin mapigilan. Ayon sa isang pag-aaral ng Texas Tech University, ang sobrang konsumo ng masasamang balita ay nauugnay sa pagtaas ng stress, anxiety at pisikal na sintomas gaya ng pagkapagod at sakit ng ulo. Ayon naman sa Harvard Health, ang doom scrolling ay nagpapataas ng fight or flight hormones tulad ng cortisol at adrenaline na nakakapagpabigat ng isip at katawan. Nakakaapekto ito sa iyong mood, tulog at maging sa mental at physical health mo. At kapag naman puro memes at random na content ang pinapanood mo ng sunod-sunod hanggang sa mawalan ka na ng gana na mag-isip at gumawa ng iba pang gawain, ang tawag naman dyan ay brain rot. Sa Gen Z at tinatawag na internet culture, ang brain rot ay overconsumption o sobrang tagal na panonood ng paulit-ulit, mababaw, magulo o walang saysay na content online hanggang sa parang manhid na ang utak mo. Kapag nasobrahan, syempre, nakakasama. Nawawalan ka na ng focus, nawawala ang motivation, hirap mag-isip ng malalim, parang lutang o foggy ang utak. Masaya sa simula, pero kapag sobra, napapagod ang isip mo. Nahihirapang mag-concentrate at parang lutang. Mas delikado pa ito sa mga bata dahil ang utak nila ay nasa proseso pa ng pag-develop. Kaya mas malakas ang epekto ng doom scrolling at brain rot sa kanila. Maaaring makaapekto sa pag-aaral, pag-iisip at pakikitungo sa iba. Ang higit sa 4 na oras ng screen time araw-araw sa mga kabataan ay konektado sa 35 to 88% na mas mataas na posibilidad ng depresyon, anxiety at stress. Base ito sa isang malawakang pag-aaral sa Brazil. Kaya, maging balanse. Magpahinga sa screen, magbasa, makipagkwentuhan, magdasal, maging present lagi. Alagaan ang iyong isipan. Kung anong itinatanim sa isipan mo, yun ang lalago.
diesel supplies disrupted by a bitter dispute with two neighboring countries, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is calling on Romania for urgent help and laying the groundwork for deeper energy ties. This report from Almar Forzuelo.
Ukraine is running low on options, and its president is making that plain. Speaking at a press conference in Bucharest following talks with Romanian President Nicolae Rădan, Zelensky made a direct appeal for diesel supplies after Hungary and Slovakia cut off fuel deliveries to Ukraine and amid a widening feud over the Druzhba pipeline.
І дизель нам ще потрібен, скажу вам просто, потрібен дизель. Я звернувся до президента, дуже хочемо, щоб ми знайшли розуміння, знайшли таку допомогу Україні.
The two sides are also eyeing bigger energy deals. Zelensky said Ukraine and Romania are in talks over the possible transport of American liquefied natural gas through Romanian territory, describing the volumes involved as important. To further shore up Ukraine's energy security, both countries agreed to construct two new electricity transmission lines, with the first interconnector expected to be completed by year's end. The energy crisis has its roots in a dispute over the Druzhba pipeline, the critical route that carries Russian oil through Ukraine to Central Europe. Hungary and Slovakia accuse Ukraine of deliberately halting the oil flow for political reasons. Kiev, however, says the pipeline was knocked out by a Russian attack. In retaliation, both countries cut diesel supplies to Ukraine and blocked the EU's 20th sanctions package against Russia, demanding the pipeline be restored before any further cooperation. The standoff adds yet another layer of complexity to Europe's already strained energy picture as the EU pushes ahead with plans to ban Russian pipeline gas and LNG by 2027. A move both Budapest and Bratislava have threatened to challenge in court. Reporter for Newsline World, Almar Forzuelo, SMNI News.
A gunman drove his truck into a synagogue in West Bloomfield Township, Michigan, then opened fire before being killed by security guards, in what authorities are now calling a targeted act of violence against the Jewish community. Joy Tabanao has the details.
It happened just before 1 in the afternoon in Detroit, USA. A gunman rammed his truck through the front doors of Temple Israel on Walnut Lake Road in West Bloomfield Township, then exchanged gunfire with security guards stationed at the scene. The suspect was later found dead inside the vehicle. A security guard was struck but is expected to recover. At least 30 law enforcement officers were also taken to hospital for smoke inhalation after the building caught fire. Temple Israel, which houses an early child care center and school, was among the worshippers and families shaken by the attack, and confirmed all 140 students at the Susan and Harold Loss Early Childhood Center, as well as staff, teachers, and security personnel are all safe. Oakland County Sheriff Michael Butchert was quick to credit those who responded. Investigators reportedly found a large amount of explosives inside the vehicle, raising alarm about how much worse the attack could have been. The Department of Homeland Security identified the suspect as Ayman Mohammad Ghazali, a Lebanese-born man who became a U.S. citizen in 2016. At a press conference Thursday evening, federal authorities confirmed the attack is being treated as deliberate and targeted. President Donald Trump, speaking from Washington, offered his condolences to the Michigan Jewish community before pivoting to the ongoing conflict with Iran.
And before we begin, I want to send our love to the Michigan Jewish community and all of the people in Detroit area following the attack on the Jewish synagogue early today. And I've been fully briefed, and it's a terrible thing, but it goes on. We're going to be right down to the bottom of it.
Trump also used the moment to address the broader military campaign against Iran, saying the situation was, in his words, moving very rapidly.
The situation with Iran is moving along very rapidly. It's doing very well. Our military is unsurpassed. There's never been anything like it. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And we're doing what has to be done. Should have been done during a 47-year period. Could have been done by a lot of different people. They chose not to do it. But they really are a nation of terror and hate, and they're paying a big price right now.
Authorities say the investigation remains active as federal and local agencies work to determine the full scope of what unfolded. This has been Choi Tabanao, your global citizen correspondent reporting for Newsline World.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. called for unity and peace as he hosted members of the Muslim community during a grand iftar gathering at Malacanang Palace. Details from Creslin Gatarong.
President Bongbong Marcos underscored the importance of respect and unity among Filipinos regardless of faith. The statement was made during the traditional iftar, or the breaking of the fast, held in Malacanang on Thursday. According to the president, sharing the meal with the Muslim leaders reflects the country's openness to mutual understanding among different cultures. Marcos said the spirit of Ramadan, marked by discipline and compassion for others, serves as an important guide toward peace and development in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, or BARM, and the rest of the country. The president also pointed out that the world is facing several challenges, including tensions in the Middle East that are affecting the global economy and Filipino families.
We see tensions in different parts of the world, particularly now in the Middle East, a region that is deeply significant to many who share the Islamic faith.
Marcos also expressed concern for civilians affected by the conflict, especially Muslims, who should be peacefully observing Ramadan. He said these events serves as a reminder of the importance of peace across the country. The president assured that the government will continue strengthening the foundations of peace in the country, particularly in Mindanao.
Many Filipino Muslims also share in this profound sorrow. So in moments like these, we are reminded of a simple truth. Peace anywhere matters to people everywhere.
Marcos expressed hope that Filipinos will remain united in promoting a peaceful and inclusive nation. Meanwhile, BARM Chief Minister Abdul Rauf Makakoa said unity among Muslims, non-Muslims, and indigenous peoples is essential in achieving lasting peace.
Ramadan for us is a month of unity and a month of forgiveness to everyone. Nandito tayo ngayon celebrating the Grand Iftar. So ito isa lang ang mensahe nito. Kailangan magkaisa yung Muslim, non-Muslim, and they peace also, because only that we can achieve a real peace in our homeland.
Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Creslin Gatarong, SMNI News.
After nearly 6 years of silence, the train whistles are blowing again. Passenger rail service between Beijing and Pyongyang has officially resumed. Daniela Paulite has the story.
It was a moment 6 years in the making. On Thursday, the first passenger train bound for Pyongyang rolled out of Beijing, marking the official resumption of cross-border rail travel between China and the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, suspended since the COVID-19 pandemic shut borders across the globe. For one passenger on board, the trip was more than just a journey.
大家好，我是苏27，一名来自中国的火车迷。今天呢是北京开往平壤的快27次列车第一次复开。因为疫情，众所周知，因为疫情的原因，中国与其他国家的全部国际列车在疫情期间均停开了。对于这次的复开，我感到非常的高兴与荣幸，能够参与到这次第一次今天的首开活动。然后呢，我觉得这对中朝两国的友谊呢，也是友谊以及良好的关系呢，也是一个相当好的一个见证和相当好的一个延续。
The restored rail link signals a gradual return to normalcy between the two neighboring nations and a step away from the strict border controls that defined the pandemic years. Officials say the revived service is expected to strengthen people-to-people ties and deepen the bond between Beijing and Pyongyang as the two countries continue to rebuild connections long put on hold. Reporting for Newsline World, Daniela Paulita, SMNI News.
A major leadership change has been announced at one of South Korea's biggest K-pop agencies, as Park Jin-young steps down from a key board position at JYP Entertainment. Meanwhile, former beauty queen Rabia Mateo is making headlines again, this time for an academic achievement. Carla Abellana tells us more.
Park Jin-young has stepped down from his position as internal director of JYP Entertainment, the K-pop agency announced this week. In a statement, the company said that Park will not seek reappointment to the board at the upcoming shareholders meeting scheduled for March 26. Park, who founded JYP Entertainment, has long played a key role in shaping the company's creative direction and success in the global K-pop industry. Despite stepping down from the board, the company indicated that Park is expected to continue contributing to the label's music production and artistic activities. The move comes as the agency continues to expand its global presence with popular K-pop acts and new international projects. Rabia Mateo has achieved an impressive milestone after scoring 741 on the National Medical Admission Test, placing her in the 99th percentile. The Miss Universe Philippines 2020 title holder shared the accomplishment through an Instagram story, reposting a congratulatory message celebrating her high score. The result places Mateo among the top-performing examinees of the National Medical Admission Test, which is required for admission to medical schools across the Philippines. Mateo has previously spoken about her aspiration to pursue a career in medicine, balancing her public career with her academic goals. And that's all for now. This is Carla Abellana bringing you the latest show buzz.
In sports, United States President Donald Trump says Iran's national football team is welcome to compete in the 2026 FIFA World Cup, but expressed concerns that it may not be appropriate for the team to participate due to safety issues. Meanwhile, Sweden's Armando Plantis has broken his own pole vault record for the 15th time after clearing 6.31 meters at the Mondo Classic in Uppsala, Sweden. Here's Carla de la Peña for more details.
Uncertainty surrounds Iran's participation in the 2026 FIFA World Cup following rising tensions between Iran, the United States, and Israel, just months before the tournament begins on June 11 in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Iran's Sports and Youth Minister Ahmad Danyamali said the country currently does not have the proper conditions to take part in the tournament, citing security concerns after recent strikes that reportedly killed Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Donald Trump said Iran's national football team is welcome to compete, but warned that their presence may not be appropriate for their own safety. If Iran withdraws from the tournament, FIFA will have the authority to select a replacement team under its competition regulations. The two-time Olympic champion set the new mark at the IFU Arena during the indoor pole vault only event named after him. Duplantis successfully cleared 5.65 meters, 5.90 meters, and 6.08 meters on his first attempts before raising the bar to 6.31 meters, where he secured a new world record. The 26-year-old, widely known as Mondo, has now improved the world record by just 1 centimeter each time he has broken it. Before Duplantis' dominance, the world record was held by Renaud Lavillenie, who cleared 6.16 meters in 2014. Duplantis has already won multiple major titles, including back-to-back Olympic gold medals, and has remained unbeaten in major finals since 2019. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Carla de la Peña bringing you the latest sports news.
And before we end, may be inspired with the words of the sun. And that's all for this edition of Newsline World. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I am Franco Baranda. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.